Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all our participants from across the globe. Thank you for taking the time to join our webinar on cognitive digital workplace for the SAP ecosystem. My name is KTern and I handle marketing and partnerships at KTern. A couple of things to note before we get started. All attendees will be muted upon entry, so please ask your questions via the Q&A tab present at the bottom of your screen and we'll answer them at the end. We also have a couple of polls in between to keep it engaging. So please do participate in them so that we make this webinar more relevant to all of you. So before we dive into the topic, I'll give a brief introduction on KTern and also introduce the speaker of the day. KTern is an SAP validated digital workplace built specifically for SAP digital transformations. It has 5 digital streams: digital maps, digital labs, digital projects, digital process, and digital minds. So today in this webinar, we'll discuss how this cognitive digital workplace unifies SAP initiatives, business processes, tasks, testing, and collaboration. And our speaker for today is Mr. Ratnakumar Nagarajan. He is the co-founder and director of Car Technologies, an SAP consulting firm, and has over 25 plus years of SAP transformation expertise. In his career spanning over 2.5 decades, he has done several hats across operations, business development, and project management as well. He has also been part of 2 successful startups and is currently the head of KTern, where he leads a young team with the vision of simplifying SAP digital transformations. So on that note, we'll get started. Ratna, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ketan. Is my audio okay and my screens are visible?
Yes, Ratna, your audio is okay and your screen is also visible.
All right. Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone who has joined this webinar around the globe. We really appreciate your time. Although we have scheduled for 1 hour, I'll try and do it in 30, 40 minutes so that it's interesting for you as well. What I would be talking about is, how we are trying to reimagine the SAP digital workplace in a very cognitive way, in a better way in terms of doing SAP transformation. The most of the SAP projects that has been run in the past had a combination of waterfall methodology and different ways of driving it. And running business, SAP business for the last 25 years, we have reimagined how you could do SAP projects in a better way. Mostly it is chaotic. It is not one single line how a SAP project is run. It's not a list of 20 or 30 tasks. It's multidimensional in the way how it is being run. And with the new norm in place, how does the existing tool find a place, and how we are trying to make it better in terms of the hybrid way of working, the digital way of working with COVID-19 coming up. How can we still go about driving a SAP project? How important it is to ensure that there is a single place where your project moments are captured, and it doesn't have to be in terms of report, but how do you ensure there is a better way of doing the project? So traditionally, if you look at it, the end users would be able to access the SAP system after the business blueprint workshop, and they would be able to access it after 8 or 9 months. But SAP has also been evolving in terms of embracing the agile way of driving large transformations. And they have a huge set of tools and a framework. But how do we ensure that we give a life to it and more action oriented, and how we go about driving the SAP project? So that's the context in which this whole product was built. And with over 25 years of experience and driving multi-million-dollar SAP projects, one single important thing that I and the team have noticed is that it's very important to have a proper cadence, governance, control in terms of driving the huge transformations, right? So most of these projects if you've been in the SAP world for quite some time, it's a result of lots of confusion in terms of driving it, and it's very difficult to drive a project. And once talking to a customer recently, he mentioned about how each time there is a transformation, be it a functional pack upgrade or EHP upgrade, or a huge transformation moving from the ECC to S4 HANA, or any release management, how difficult it is and how humongous it gets in terms of managing the different layers, in terms of aligning them in one single goal. Because it's not a OS upgrade or a database upgrade, it's also about the process and the whole way of doing the business that gets changed. So we need to have an alignment right from the CEO level to the end user level, and collaboration was always through email. And of course you have more collaboration tools now, but you still want to capture those unstructured messages in one single place, so that you can act upon it, and there is proper communication that flows within the organization. Now, with this new norm happening, there is also a talent scarcity. You will not, one business process to be configured or consulted. You need different consultants to work at one place, where or one central repository. So how do you carry on the knowledge that has been that's been happening over a period of time, and how do we capture it, how do we reuse it, what do we do with that? Because every time it's something new, and the system integrator changes, the partner changes, and there is SAP that is evolving constantly in terms of the new platform. So how do we handle all that? How do we predict the risk better? How do we give smart alerts in terms of driving the SAP transformation? How do we ensure that it's more of a shared responsibility, and the accountability is shared in terms of driving these huge transformations? So that those are the things that we have taken care in terms of building this product. Of course, the list of chaos and initiatives, if you have been involved in a project, is um, quite huge. And that's where we came up with this product, where it's a SaaS product. It's completely trying to democratize the transformation, be it anything. And yeah, we call it SAP DXS. DXS, Digital Transformation as a Service. But the product itself helps the partners and the end customers to drive their project in a better way. And there are a few popular use cases that we have mentioned in the right hand side. But holistically, if you look at the complete streams that we have, it starts with the digital projects. You can have a complete process. This is a unique thing in our product in terms of how we drive it. Labs is completely doing the testing in terms of automating it, and it is very cognitive in nature, where it reads for any changes or release management or add-ons happening, and so that's how it happens. And digital mines is more of your process mining during the run mode. Maps again does the complete mapping of how you want to move from an existing system to a new system. So you can do the complete project management, test cycle management, custom code optimization, both for ECC as well as S4HANA, custom code auto remediation, complete application lifecycle management. In case if you want to drive the business case and put up a roadmap, you have a provision for that as well. You can continuously innovate in terms of how your SAP is being run. You can do the complete release and upgrade planning using a change impact analysis that's part of the product itself. And okay, what it does is it does 30 to 40% cost and timeline savings. It has an auto learning AML based knowledge base. It is very cognitive in the nature, in the sense it's not a standalone tool. It aligns and works with your existing SAP, and more productivity in terms of how you want to drive your SAP project. Right, there's a poll also happening right now as we talk. Um, right, so someone is saying my voice is too low. I will try and speak up. I'm really sorry about it. So the founding vision of this whole product, KTern, if you look at it, I come from a consulting background in terms of driving SAP services, coupled that with a set of tools that's required to drive an SAP project. We thought we'll make it a one place where you could drive the complete SAP digital transformation. So what we are essentially trying to do is, there are quite a lot of tools in terms of testing, in terms of handling your project management, in terms of your collaboration, in terms of your process management, application lifecycle management. But what the new world needs is more of a more of a redefined way of doing things, right? You have quite a lot of changes that's happening globally on how the retail segment has been taken over by Amazon, how Tesla is taking over in terms of electric cars. So there is a space to reimagine and rethink on how you want to drive your SAP projects. And this is coming from veterans who have been in the SAP space for the last 25 years. So we realize, and we took an empathetic view for ourselves in terms of how we drive projects, how do we ensure all stakeholders are aligned, how we can make it better in terms of driving the complete digital transformation. And that's how this whole product has evolved. It's available as part of the SAP Store. It is also part of a package solution for a few of the system integrators, and it's all available in the internet, right? So what I'm going to talk today about is about the people, process, and tools. That's the old adage, but now the current thing is, now how do we people are definitely important in terms of the digital transformation or any transformation. That's not changing, but the order and priority changes in terms of how you drive it, because process, in terms of having it in a in an Excel or a PPT, doesn't do anything in terms of how you drive the complete transformation. It has to be driven by a tool. And with this remote work and hybrid workplace emerging, it is very important that we have one space or one workplace where all stakeholders can collaborate, including the system integrators, including the end customers and SAP themselves, and to drive it, to see what is happening in a project. It cannot be done anymore at the customer place. It's the workplace is evolving. So that's how this whole product was envisioned. Of course, we did not anticipate COVID-19 when we started it in 2018. It's 3 years now, but that has only accelerated the way that we wanted to drive it, right? So this hybrid nature of workplace, and how you marry the process of the global scope item or business process, because most of the project tools that you currently see in the market is more about driving a project plan, and it doesn't combine with the business processes at the end customer. And that's where we bring in a unique value proposition in terms of how we wanted to marry this two things, because process is different, and the way the projects are handled is different. But we wanted to ensure that we combine that, and that's what I will show in a demo in a real quick time. Right. So this is uh, this is one last slide before I jump into the demo, where we have done a complete rethinking of how you want to do it. It has got some very good ways of managing your project. As I mentioned earlier, it combines the project methodology. It can be your own methodology if you're a partner, or if you want to go with what SAP says in terms of activate methodology, which has matured quite a lot in terms of the sequence of steps that you might have to do, or the work items that you have to do, and how it is arranged in terms of work stream and packages, and how you can deliver it across different phases, starting from discover to run mode, and how you can track the logs and issues that comes out of these projects. So that's one part of it. The other part of it is, the methodology itself is a means to activate a process, the birth of a process, be it a order to cash or procure to pay or record to revenue in SAP. How do you track it? How do you communicate with the subject matter experts? And how do you ensure that all this is managed at one place is what the cognitive workplace for SAP projects. And it has a complete stakeholder alignment. It helps in the productivity. It helps in continuity in terms of driving the release management, the next set of SAP projects. You can have the complete org structure managed there, or file management to manage the files. It has got a complete way of managing your project in terms of the workspace, the knowledge base it has. It has got a project timeline simulator, which I'll explain in a few minutes from now. If you look at the traditional tools that's available in the market, I'm sure you're using an Excel or a JIRA or MS Project, but that's all made. MS Project, for example, is a very generic tool that's made for any projects. Now, this is very specific. We don't live in a world of generalist anymore. It's more specialty driven. That's why we went maybe 5-10 miles depth in terms of how you want to run a project, right? So with that, I will jump into the demo real quick. So, right. So this is, KTern, can you just confirm if you're still able to see my screen and I can proceed?
Yes, the screen right now is the KTern website.
All right, thank you very much. So KTern, as I mentioned again, it's available on the internet. You can look for the product features and how it works. It's also available in the SAP Store. You can click on that one and it would take you to the SAP Store, where you could get a free demo, or you could connect to your system as well and start working on it. It is the whole product has been certified by SAP, and it has got more features, how it works, resources in terms of documentation, content repository articles, the list of partners, and we have quite a lot of information here in the website itself. You can also book a demo. You can get started real quick. One of the things that we have really taken into account is, typically for large enterprises, it would take a longer time to set up a project and drive it. But here we have made it very simple. We wanted to make it simple. It can be done simple, the SAP projects, and that's how this whole product is designed. You can start a free trial. You can view a demo as well. The links are here available. Let me get into the product itself. So I have launched a new project here. You can drive more projects based on how you want to drive it. You can create project in minutes. It doesn't take a long time to set up a project. It's as simple as I've moved to a different browser just for the sake of timing, but you can set up a new project, with the information um, and things like that. So it's all available on the internet. Um, you know, and you can select the product that you want to implement. It can be S/4HANA Premise, it could be S/4HANA Cloud, Single Tenant, SuccessFactors, C/4HANA. This is a quality system, Ariba. So the point is, anything that you want to do within the SAP family of products, once you select the target SAP product, and if it's a conversion, then you also target the SAP version and things like that. But basically what it does is, of course, 2020 is also available, implementation, conversion, selective data transition. This is all based on the discovery that you do. You can set up the project timeline. Yeah. Basically, it's all on the fly that you could do. You can set it up. You can select the project calendar that you want. You can, yeah, just select, for example, Germany calendar, and so it's kind of quite easy. So you see the list of activities that's being set up in terms of the project plan. Uh, this is all auto-generated for you, but then once you set it up, you can basically start working on it. I've not saved it, but yeah, you can have different versions saved, and then you just create and launch the project. So it's so easy that you won't have to go through different Excels or project plans, and so that's how easy it is. The best thing is you can also activate a process. So, for example, if you're working on a chemical industry or a process industry or oil and gas or auto components, it could be any industry. There are few process list that we have as an universe from where you can select the process which is more industry specific, and that's how you set up the whole project. So it's that simple. Something that would take you 1 2 months and a team of 3 4 to set it up in terms of identifying the processes, and it could be a greenfield, it could be an existing system. So I'll show all that in a few minutes. But let me go back here to the this is something that I showed how you launch a project, but then I wanted to show how an existing project really set up here. So if you see on the left, you have lots of streams that I spoke in the initial when we started. It's about the digital maps that you see here on the left hand side. You have projects, you have process, you have labs, mines, and this is where I said it's very cognitive in the sense you will be able to connect it with an existing SAP. It could be a success factor, it could be Ariba, it could be a sandbox developments. All you have to do is download a connector, and then you can connect it. It's as simple as entering whatever you know in terms of SAP GUI, and it gets connected with your SAP system. Now, why we connect it is to make it more cognitive, more data-driven decisions that you can make than being dependent upon a set of consultants, right? That's the whole idea. So if you want to imagine that, the how it works, let me get into the digital projects. Now, what the project does is, as I mentioned earlier, it does have all the uh, so once you select a particular framework or methodology that you want to drive it, you have the list of uh, work items or work packages across different stream in terms of how you want to drive it. So you basically see the different activities that you can perform. So there's life to each of these things, right? You can view this item, you can drive it. There are a few things that are automated as part of it, the different stakeholders that are involved in terms of driving it. The best part is each of these work items has something called a knowledge base. And that's what I mentioned earlier, that when you move from, I mean, people keep moving, right? So people keep moving, and that's life all about. So you want to ensure that the knowledge is retained and it's codified and stays, and that's what we call as for Hanapedia Engine, where we have the complete uh, components of it scans through the World Wide Web, brings up the articles, SAP notes relevant to that particular task, links, yeah, and things like that, right? So how do you drive it? You can maintain the wiki notes and things like that. Now, since it's made specific for SAP, any issues that you encounter as part of this projects, that can be handled, that can be moved on to the next project, that learnings are being recorded, and you can use it for the next set of teams that would work. So you can just copy it and ensure you use it for the next set of projects. So knowledge is retained, basically. That's the whole idea. And it's here we have the activate methodology as the central framework. But if you want to have your own framework of how you want to drive it, even that is possible, right? So But then at the end of the day, you could basically assign a particular work item to a set of consultants, invite users and work on it, track all the dates and things like that. That's probably available in a different ways and different tools. But what essentially we have done here is, and which is probably a unique thing in terms of how we drive these projects, is this process catalog. Now, what it does is, I did mention about having a process map imported when you set up a project. So if you're doing um, if you're doing auto-based automobile-based implementation or a process-based implementation, it gives you a set of processes from our knowledge base that you can use it and make it up and running in terms of a particular process. So if you look at it here, it has a different view of how you can do it. You can view it as an Excel as well. You can have the process components. So if I take, for example, a particular finance and supply chain and configuring treasury management, right? And if I click on the process components, so what it does is, you could basically model the complete processes on how it is going to be done here for a particular company, right? So you could also ask for some process maps, and the product would come up with a list of processes, right? So I want to repeat this again, what I did, because I did really move real quick. But what I want to, and probably I'll take something else right now. Let me take this process analytics, for example. So this is one of the processes. So if you really look at the business process, it could be at department level, or you could do it at module level, or you could do it based on the um, different owners. So all subject matter experts could get involved, and you could take up that process that gets connected with SAP, and then you can do a modeling as well, and you can also ask for a recommendation from our knowledge base. Okay, this one doesn't have anything, but let me go back here again and do manufacturing, quality management, and pick up quality management and sales. So what you see is basically the process code, the universal process code. It's called global scope items these days from SAP. Get some recommendation, and it would show you the complete process of how things should be mapped based on different roles, right? So if you go about creating a sale order, and what it does is, this is one recommendation that it gives. You can do documentation, you can save the process flow, but the important part is it also has references. So let me go to some other process catalog. I will pick up this one. Pick up this one, maybe modular references. Right. So whatever components that helps us run this particular process, that is monitored here, right? It could be a linkage, it could be a configuration, it could be components, it could be anything. It could be a report, it could be a price object. So you have a option to add the different components that would drive this particular process. It could be an interface, it could be anything that you want to make a particular process run. So for a moment, I wanted to move back to my presentation so that I'm able to make more sense. And if you look at my presentation, yeah, we know this methodology project, how it works on the left-hand side, right? It's one-time, unique, scheduled. It has a closure, Gantt chart, and things like that. On the right-hand side, you have a process item, which is basically, this is what the end customer is more concerned about. And the methodology itself is to ensure that the process is up and running, and it has different levels. It could be aggregated at different levels. It could go from a line of business to a process group to a scope item, process step, and process variant, or a T code if you're aware of it. And how do I ensure that the complete mapping is visible to a CIO or a business process owner? And how is it going to run? And even if it is on the run mode, how do I scan that and bring it in my process catalog in terms of driving the process for end customer? Now, that's something unique about uh, the tool that I just showed. So we've combined the methodology, we've combined the process. That's what you get in our product. Now, I also wanted to talk about the way a particular process, the birth of a particular process, right? Could be a BDX sale order entry with one-time customer. You do a recommend backlog, solution design document, gap analysis because of the way SAP is structured right now, where you come up with a solution design document, and then you do a build and test for a particular process to be up and running with a set of functional design, technical design. What's happening is it starts as a waterfall, and then it gets into an agile mode of driving SAP projects, right? So that is how we have, of course, the document review, sign off, and run mode. So this is something that we said it has to be done using a product, right? So that's what we have done here. And you could, as I mentioned earlier, you could link this particular process to a task or an issue or a test case or an event. So essentially, you have a complete grip of what's happening to a process in terms of price objects, in terms of modeler. You can of course design your own modeling as well if and modify it and then save it and then do a complete documentation, capture a few notes so that a BPO moves, a business process owner moves from an organization, you still have the complete track of how a process has been done, right? Now, this is the unique part of our product. You don't see that in any of the project management tools that's available currently. And of course, we have a few other things in terms of optimizing your custom code and things like that. But uh, yeah, this is something unique. As I mentioned earlier, it can be extended to any kind of industry. uh, you could also add a new process item and ensure that because of its cognitive ability, it is able to read it and see if there are any changes. Now, one of the interesting part is if you're already an existing customer and you wanted to ensure that you get this map, we have something called the digital maps, right? So once you connect to your SAP system and drive it, it provides you a complete mapping of how your process has been uh, configured. Now, if you have to do it the regular way, you might have to look at the business blueprint document, see what has happened, and things like that, right? So it gets very difficult to do an assessment. So if you're a partner listening to this webinar, you wanted to take it up from one of the customers or how knowledge transfer is done, you don't have to rely on the set of documents. You just scan the system because we believe in data, and that's what we do here, right? We scan the complete system in terms of landscape, in terms of the complete processes that's available, the list of objects that's available, and that's how you get to know, and that forms the premise of master data and how you drive the whole transformation. If you're getting into a digital transformation. Um, and that's the beauty of this product in terms of how we drive it. But yeah, I want to talk more about the control and the governance that you might want to do, right? So once you're involved in a project, how do you drive a complete, I'm sure sign off is something that everyone is aware of if you've been in the SAP world, which is nothing but a workflow or a complete sign off in terms of how we want to drive each phases, because it's very important that we have a sign off at different phases with a Q gate. So whatever I showed you in the phase kernel earlier in terms of driving different phases, how do you link it to a sign off and eventually to to a milestone? That's completely managed here. So you could take up any process and subject it to a complete workflow process in terms of approval, rejection. So there is a complete digital footprint of how you drive an SAP project, and that helps you to drive it in a more controlled way. You can drive any kind of so let me take up a particular, maybe I'll take this one. So you have a complete workflow engine that's built here. Maybe it's a wrong one. Let me get something which is complex. Okay. Right. You can keep adding more child wizards, and there is a document workflow. There is an approval reject that you can do. There is different levels, and you can keep creating sign off and keep linking it uh, to the different task in the phase kernel, or it can be linked to the process so that you have you have everyone accountable, responsible in terms of how you drive it, right? So you don't find it anywhere. You don't find these kind of sign-offs or workflows for different uh, deliverables that you have to do in a project, right? So um, yeah, so that's how extensive it can be done in terms of driving your project. Because again, been in SAP world for a long time, you understand that the lots of communication that happens, but then you have to have some rigid way of driving it, some precision in terms of how you deliver the business transformation, where you have all the stakeholders. So when you drive a project, and when you're done with the configuration and the solution design document, how do you have a complete sign off? And when you before you go live, you have a complete view of how the projects are moving, and you see which is active, which has been completely approved. So this is an example of business case document sign off. The the three completed, four active, and two new, basically the complete wizard of how things would look like. So if you have to take up, if you want to imagine the finance department, for example, and how you wanted to involve all the subject matter experts in terms of driving it, right? So that's what this complete thing does in terms of having all the stakeholders involved, and how you can have different levels. It could be, it could be for a task, it could be for an issue, it could be for test cases, it could be for any work item that you want to define and ensure you have a complete buy-in of all the stakeholders. And the whole of this product has a complete auto documentation involved, where you can document, drive it for different sign-offs and things like that, right? So that's the whole thing, and of course it's logged and it's all available at one place. The idea is to capture all the digital moments, right? So that's how you bring in the cadence, control, and governance of driving a project. There are a few other things that I want to talk here before I take the questions. You can manage the complete scope of the project. You can have a risk register, and the risk register is not a manual one. In case we have some smart alerts based on our engine, it keeps giving and logging in, and then keeps assigning it to the different users. You can have the complete project structure here and the hierarchy as well. You can have the complete files. So you have files can be integrated with the Sharepoint portal. You can have communication with the different users, where it provides the list of consultants working, or the customer side. You can send communication. If you have a communication tool like Teams or Slack, then you can keep sending messages there on how your project is being driven. And of course, these are analytics in terms of how the project is happening, and the different um, consultants that are being utilized, the work item tracker. All this is available as dashboards. Of course, these are things that's mandatory for any project to be driven. Um, I also the other thing that it has is if you're still stuck with the old way of doing projects, which you still have to whatever we showed was the way we have reimagined the project. But if you still want to drive it using a Gantt chart and want to drive it with a set of consultants here, even that is possible, and that gets integrated with the list of tasks and issues and test cases. So you can drive it from here itself in terms of changing it and things like that. So that's also possible. So you could yeah, I think this is frozen for the time being, but you can track your milestones. You have a workbook view if you want to have an Excel kind of a thing to drive your project plans. So that all that is possible. And then you also have uh, events in terms of calendar. You can sync it with your Outlook. You can manage your complete projects. You can have the calendar managed here. You could create events, task issues, test cases, whatever you want, right? So that's all possible. So all your project movements and typically all these projects are driven through multiple uh, meetings and minutes and issues, decision, call to action. How do I ensure meeting notes? You can integrate it with your email solution, have track the call to actions, drive it. How do we go about doing it? So all your project moments captured at one place so that you have a track to substantiate how things are. You have a complete files as well. Files are stored in a way that you want to manage it. It could be based on the methodology that you have, so that you have one place to manage all your files. It could be integrated with your SharePoint portal. So typically all these projects run into a huge set of documents. So we ensure that you capture those documents at one place in terms of how you want to drive it, the meeting notes, the minutes of meeting. So there's a complete way of how you want to drive it. Um, and then yeah, so of course you have other collaboration hub where you can collaborate with your users, be the subject matter expert or your consultants. And as I mentioned earlier, the hybrid way of working, you need one place, and all your unstructured data in terms of talking, chatting about the project, all that is captured at one place. So you can integrate it with any of the collaboration tool you have. Issues can be tracked, right? I mean, in terms of how you want to drive it. So it's got the whole set of things. And as I mentioned, very cognitive in nature. You also have your workspace where it keeps reminding you of the list of tasks that you have to work on or your team is working on. So it's kind of a self-service for the project side of things, and the events and calendar. So it's got pretty much the collaboration hub as well. And yeah, I was talking about the maps and projects and the process catalog and the timeline and things like that. But it has got more automated features in terms of testing it, in terms of driving your complete test management, test strategy. That is possible, right? So and then it has got once you get into the run mode, how do you do the product? How do you manage the KPI of a particular process? What are the different optimizations that you have to do, analysis in terms of how your process is currently doing, and what are the different things that you can do in terms of product improvement or the process improvement. That's also pretty much here. So you have a complete life cycle of managing your SAP project. And yeah, so that's how we have reimagined. So just to come back, um, I can keep talking more, but will be interested if you message me that I could do a specific demo connecting to your SAP system and showing you the results of how you can drive it. So what we have done is, as I mentioned, we believe in data. we connect to your existing SAP system. If you don't have an existing SAP system, we provide you with the product itself. The KTern provides you with the Hanapedia engine and the knowledge base engine, which has been built over a period of experience that we have had across different industries. Juxtapose that with the model companies code from SAP and different methods. So the product has quite a lot in terms of what it has to offer, where KTern provides a complete collaboration, analytics, milestone-driven KPIs, change management. Right? You could have a complete change management driven using KTern because all your processes are recorded. You wanted some new person to get accustomed to the new way of doing things. You have files, video files, trainings could be done, complete documentation, right? I didn't show that part, but if you go anywhere and download, it comes as a document on whatever has been logged into the product, and it drives the overall project efficiency for a PMO office uh, or for different things, right? So that's about it from my side. I promised 30 minutes, but I think I exceeded to 15 minutes. I can take some questions. I will. Thanks for joining in this call. So let me look at my questions if there are any, or if someone has responded already. Right, so can someone help me prompt the question if you guys don't mind? Or if it's already answered, that's fine. Let me look at it. I'm coming from the bottom. SAP, yeah, I think that's answered. Okay, looks like most of the questions has been answered by my team. Yeah. Okay, if there are no more questions, I'll hand it over back to KTern. Thank you everyone for joining this webinar. Really appreciate your time. I hope it was well spent. If there are anything, you have my email address there. Feel free to get in touch. We'll be happy to get connected with the SAP ecosystem. And, yeah, thank you. Keaton, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Ratna. So I hope the questions are answered. I think there was a question on Fiori apps, which I'm sure Chris Chambers. Yes, Chris Chambers has asked a question on Fiori apps before, and there's another question on will I be able to manage my files? So would you like to answer that, Ratna?
Okay. So if I understand it, can you tell me if this can help in identifying the Fiori apps? Yes, it will be able to help you in identifying the Fiori apps. Let me go to the demo, and that's part of, if the assumption here is that if you're in the existing ECC and you wanted to move to S/4HANA, would it be able to recommend me the list of Fiori apps is the question, if I understand. Yes, that's possible, and it definitely does that as well. Let me just go to the demo system and look for that. Yeah, but the answer is yes, it does that. It provides a list of uh, list of Fury apps. This is the demo system. You can take a look at it. And if you go here and if you pick up one of the things on the process, so basically it scans your existing system and then it also suggests the list of Fury apps. So you don't have to go through a manual way. It recommends the list of Fury apps that could be replaced with your existing GUI. So that's one question. The other question that we had was, yeah, you have, I don't know if it was on files, I'm not able to see that, but yeah,
Yes, Ratna, it's on file management.
you could integrate with SharePoint portal and manage your complete file system, and that's carried over. And listen, the important part of this whole thing is whatever knowledge that you gather as part of one project can be carried forward to another set of projects as well. So if you have test cases, issues, and you want to maintain a knowledge base of it, then that's being done and that's available to you for the next project as well. So whatever issues, test cases, all that is documented and can be driven or can be carried forward, or you can build your own knowledge base if you're a partner, and that helps in more a better implementation, faster implementation. Chetan, any more questions?
Yeah, just one question which came in right now. So the question is on if I'll be able to invite my customers into the system, into KTern.
Yeah, absolutely. This is you would be able to have all the stakeholders, right? Be it the system integrator side or the customer side or SAP, everyone can use this tool. So you have a complete visibility of, so you can have any organization mapped into it. So just not the um, partner alone, it could be the customer as well. So yeah, that's possible.
Okay, there's another question. So, can I plan my sprints for custom code development and calculate sprint velocity, conduct sprint review meetings? So, this person is an ABAP lead in his project currently.
Yes, you can. As I mentioned earlier, we have taken care of, um, you know, we did mention about how um, the waterfall and the agile way of doing things. So that's definitely a possibility. You can drive it till the realize phase as a waterfall, and then you want to do multiple sprints to ensure that the process is working in terms of price components or objects. So that's definitely a possibility on how you can drive your sprint as well. So when you set up a project and you select the different templates available, you could also use it to drive your sprint of backlog items, because standard process is one thing and then you have custom process that has to be handled slightly different during the realize phase, and that's a possibility as well. Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So, that brings us to the end of the questions, Ratna. So,
Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks everyone. We'll keep doing more webinars, and thanks for spending your time. Thank you very much.